Hello and welcome to YCS Sydney 2019. Today we have gathered players from all around Australia and even across the world to see who'll be the first YCS champion of 2019. The man next to me, who's very handsome, his name is Yao Zhang. My name is Hayden Matthews and we are your commentators for today.
Good morning, guys. Welcome to YCS Sydney. We have 864 players here today.
Yep.
We have some from America, some from Canada, some from Switzerland.
Yeah, even Switzerland,
Yeah. It's not the biggest YCS we've had, but it's the first YCS of the year and hopefully one of the more exciting ones. The Sister of the Rose pack came out 2 days ago. We'll see if that set has impacted the meta at all.
Very true, yeah.
Yep.
We haven't had many tournaments actually since Milan either. And the last deck that won was, I think, Prank Kids. So
Yeah.
be very interesting how the format's progressed since then. And this is back in Sydney after being in Melbourne last year. So
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, after Milan, we can see people try to test new decks to see if they can break the format like Din Kabui did.
yeah. No, it'll be very interesting to see how that packs out. So our first round feature match will obviously include the reigning champion of YCS Melbourne, Ryan Levine. And he is playing, what deck is that he's playing?
He is playing a Thunder Dragon deck with Danger Monsters and a lot of other cards which are really cool.
Very different.
Very different to the standard list, and hopefully we'll see them in action when we start the match.
Very true. And his opponent is Christopher Booth, which I assume he is from Australia. And he's playing True Draco. And generally, like True Draco, I'm not sure how they've been. They haven't been in the format at all lately since the release of Thunder Dragon and Soul Fusion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the deck's always like there, but it's not there. It's like you always have to keep it on the back of your mind. It'll always come up. You have to prepare for it during your tournament rounds.
always, yeah, especially at a big event like this. And I think today we're having 7 or 8 rounds depending on time, and then 2 or 3 tomorrow to round out the 10-round event before Top Cut. But yeah, in Christopher's deck, he's also not playing an extra deck, so he obviously has cards in there like Domain of the Monarchs and Monarchs Erupt. So it should be interesting how that pans out for him.
Yeah, but like the issue with that is once you sit down, you see that your opponent doesn't have an extra deck. Ryan will be able to know straight away or identify that his opponent's probably playing a Monarch or a True Draco strategy.
Correct. Yep.
Whereas on the other hand, Ryan's playing. It says here 50 cards, so his opponent might think he's playing like decks which play like Warrior, which plays more than 40 cards.
Yep. So it'll be very interesting. Like giving information is very important, obviously, but there's obviously some things in here that he won't be prepared for. So here we are at our round 1 feature match. As you can see, shuffling up now, ready to go.
Yep. On the left we have Christopher Booth, and on the right we have Ryan.
And Ryan's sporting a very interesting Australian jumper there, considering he's from the United States. So he's just trying to include himself in the country now as the reigning champ.
Yeah, and then we have our 2 judges for the feature match. We have Ben on the laptop, and we have Will Dawson, who was standing, getting high perspective of the match.
Wonder what he's saying there.
Yeah. A participation mat, the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon mat, is beautiful. Unfortunately, it does not have zones, so our judges will be enforcing them to play accurately with zones. Yeah, and all the housekeeping aside, hopefully they'll have a clean match. And
there we are. So hopefully that timer gets fixed there, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure they've sorted that out down there. Yeah. And Ryan from America. Although I don't think he would mind being called an Australian these days.
Yeah. He's been here for a week. He's done a bunch of Australian.
He's always around with some of the other guys, yeah. I'm sure he likes it. It's his 3rd or 4th time here now.
Yeah, I think they all have a lot of fun when they come down. I do encourage other people to, if they want to come to an Australian YCS, to actually come. It's fun. It's a different continent. Yeah, there's a lot of touristy stuff you can do on top of just playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, it's always a different experience going to another country, but I'll definitely recommend coming here if you're ever thinking about something different. Obviously, like the style of play is always similar between the TCGs, but as you go to country, you'll notice that there is a lot of differences as well. But yeah, obviously they enjoy it, they keep coming back, so the more and more they go, the more come back as well.
Yeah, and hopefully with more exposure, we can get more events, and they'll encourage more people to come, and it's like an ongoing cycle.
Very good. So I wonder who would choose first. So have they done a dice roll yet? Do we know?
I'm
not
about
to do it now.
Oh, they're about to do it.
Go. So there's Christopher rolling a 5.
And Ryan rolling.
Oh, he's lost 1 dice off the screen.
Oh, no.
Yep.
I wonder if Ryan's acknowledged that his opponent doesn't have an extra deck yet.
Yeah, I don't know. If might be a conversation they might have had just before we cut to them, but we'll see. So I think by the looks of that, Ryan might be going first.
And it looks like Chris opened a hand of 2 Ignis Heats, 2 Diagrams, and a Duality, from what I can see.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Thunder Dragon cards in Ryan's hand, but I think I might have also seen a Mathematician and a Grinder Golem. So it'd be interesting where he starts. Yeah, there comes the Grinder Golem. So
Opening Grinder Golem.
it should be interesting where he goes from here. Very different deck, this Thunder Dragon from Ryan Levine.
Carefully choosing his zones because they may matter in this match. I mean, they probably do matter.
Yeah, a lot of these combos with decks like this, the zones may actually affect where they place the cards.
Yeah, so
obviously using Grinder Golem means that he will not longer have a normal summon. But the Thunder Dragon deck generally doesn't rely on the normal summon as much as like cards like a Battery Man Solar or Extenders, but they're not also required to combo. So here he's activating his Thunder Dragon to add another copy, possibly 2. Yep.
So this finally reveals to his opponent that he's playing a Thunder Dragon strategy.
His opponent also thinking something interesting now. Like he's seen a Grinder Golem and now some Thunder Dragons. Like what must be going through his mind at this point? Versing the reigning champion and then seeing this happen.
They're using the effect of Danger Nessie.
Should be interesting. I assume they're going to roll dice to figure this one out.
5 cards is a 20% chance at least a 20% chance that he will miss the Nessie. And
again, roll it off the screen, but yeah, we go. And he's hit the Thunder Dragon. So that was very clever by Ryan to add 2 Thunder Dragons to increase the chances of him being able to summon the Nessie and draw a card.
Now plays 2 monsters on the board without using his normal summon.
Yeah, this is a very impressive start for Ryan. Obviously, limited cards like Grinder Golem create really strong opening hands when they're in there.
Yeah, the more monsters you get on the field without using your normal summon and without digging into your strategy means you can play more around potential cards in their hand like Ash Blossom.
And unfortunately for Chris, either way, he actually doesn't play any hand traps as True Draco normally play Card of Demise, which he's playing, which kind of counteracts playing hand traps because you want them in your hand and discarding your hand. It doesn't really help that. But here we see a Curious.
Lightsworn Dominion. His effect will allow Ryan to send any card from his deck to the graveyard.
What card do you think he'll send?
It says, he sent
Fairy Tale Snow, so he's obviously setting up for next turn.
Snow being a very powerful card. This also allows Curious to send 3 cards from the deck to the graveyard.
He'd be looking to hit some sort of Thunder Dragon, Roar, or Dark to be able to trigger the effects of Snow. So he's hit Satsunoku, and the other 2 cards are off the screen, but I think I drew another Danger Chupacabra as well.
Yeah.
Not sure what the second card was, but...
I can see in Ryan's list he plays cards like Destrudo, Glow Bulb, stuff that want to be in the graveyard because they can be potentially used later. He has cards like Soul Charge to be able to recover them from the graveyard.
So he must have hit a Dark off that Curious, which is really powerful right now because he's also activated Thunder Dragon Hawk. So when he now that he's used a hand effect as well as using the Thunder Dragon anyway, he's able to make a Colossus by fusion summoning by tributing that monster. But right now we're seeing another Danger Nessie, which now has a much higher chance of hitting itself, but right now probably wouldn't be the worst thing.
3.
And we hits another Thunder Dragon, so another free draw, another summon.
I think the huge part about the Grind Golem play was it shuts off any potential impermanence plays.
Correct.
Which Ryan doesn't not know if is in his opponent's hand yet or not.
And once again, yep, Christopher not playing the Infinite Impermanence either. He's going for a really strong True Draco strategy with a lot of floodgates instead. So here we see a Colossus and a possible Thunder Dragon Dark Search. He may go the Fusion spell here, do you think, or will he set up for next turn?
I think his deck depends is centralized on building a strong turn 1 board and having recovery for next turn.
Yeah, so obviously the Fusion spell being engraved for next turn is always powerful in the Thunder Dragon strategy.
Here comes the Thunder Dragon Fusion. He's going to send back
2 Thunder Dragons, which means he's making another Colossus rather than opting for Titan. So it means he probably doesn't have anything in hand to trigger Titan's effect.
2 Colossus is still a very powerful board. A lot of decks will not be able to overcome 1.
Especially True Draco, because most of the ways True Draco out cards like Colossus would be to destroy them with the traps effects. But unfortunately, Colossus has an effect that can save itself from being destroyed, whilst also turning off Dragonic Diagram and Terraforming and any other search card of the monsters that are on the field as well. So
they can also use cards like the Monarch Stormforce, which allows you to tribute your opponent's monsters.
Interesting play by Ryan now. He's banishing the second Colossus with a Thunder Dragon Roar to summon the Titan. To activate another effect here. So Roar's going to summon another Thunder Dragon card from the deck. So very powerful opening by Ryan. Exactly where he probably wants to be with his deck. So summoning the Matrix.
And the Matrix, when sent to the graveyard, will be able to add another Matrix. That will be his way to trigger Titan on his opponent's turn.
Look at that. Seeing all the plays here. He's set up really nicely here.
Yep.
Be very happy with how he's done this. And Link 4 play. This could be Saryuja, possibly.
Let's see what it is.
Reaper
Reaper Dokas. That's a very interesting card.
So he's going to potentially end on a second Colossus anyway here by using Summoning Sorceress.
I believe he used Reproducus to make Dragon Matrix a dinosaur so he can make Summon Sorceress, which allows him this triggers Matrix, adding the Matrix like we said earlier. Now he's using Summon Sorceress to be able to summon a Thunder Monster from his deck.
What would he summon here since he's used all the effects already? Just go for another Roar? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's thinning out his deck, also setting up the board. So even though he's playing over 50 cards, he'll be pretty low on cards now after how many went to the graveyard with the Curious Mill and all of the cards resolving. So we're going to see another Colossus on the board, Summon Sorceress, Titan with a live effect, Mathematician in hand for next turn, Snow Engrave. This is a very powerful opening.
Yeah.
I don't think many decks can even get through this normally.
Hopefully that Chris will find a way to be able to break the board. He drew... Oh, no, those were not diagrammed. They were, in fact, carded demises, which is very unfortunate with having two monsters. But he did draw there can only be one for turn, which is an excellent card at outing the field. So however, there is a Titan.
You can't activate Duality, unfortunately, I don't think, because there's Colossus on the field. So hopefully the judges should just fix that one. Not sure what happens with the card that was revealed there, but hopefully that's not a big deal.
Chris is in a corner here.
Yeah, I think he's going to activate the demise anyway, possibly? Yeah. Or do you think he should just wait?
He could potentially tribute summon Ignis Heat first and then use card of demise, right? Get you an extra draw.
Like you can even attack the Sorceress first and then... Yeah, so he's going to use the Ground Golem to attack the Summon Sorc. So Ryan will not use his Matrix effect with Titan.
Ground Golem has 3,000 attack, which is a downside of summoning it for your opponent. You do give them a really powerful monster to attack you with.
There's always going to be a drawback, though, with a card that powerful, don't you think?
Yes, yeah.
So he is tributing that Ground Golem for Ignis, so he can get an extra draw from his card of demise. So Ryan's just going to quickly check the grave here.
He's
taking back his Ground Golem. That's even better.
Card of demise, powerful card, draws up to 3 cards.
So he's drawn a Disciples and an Anti-Spell Fragrance, which unfortunately he going second makes that not as good.
However, drawing the Disciples does mean he can get around Demise's end phase discard effect, because he can now additionally tribute summon the second Ignis Heat.
If he decides to do so, but instead he's deciding to discard it, so he must have another plan for next turn anyway. Obviously with there can only be one, he would have to send it to the grave anyway.
Yes.
So he probably just wants to save that Disciples anyway. So Ryan's thinking in the end phase here, if he wants to use. So he's going to use the Matrix, boosting up the Titan, so will now be 3,700 while it's on the field until it leaves the field. And now he's chaining Titan's effect.
Ooh. I believe at that point, Chris could have used Ignis Heat.
Unfortunately, he can't add either, but he he can't activate because he has 5 set. But if he had had a clear zone in the spell and trap card zone, he could have activated a Draco spell directly from the deck.
Yep. But
yes, and here comes a Fairy Tale Snow as well, which I think Ryan's mainly using here to just banish some Thunder Dragons to get resources for next turn, which is really, really good in this deck.
It was also really good that he drew the anti-spell, because he can potentially use that to chain to a Thunder Dragon's effect in hand to block Thunder Dragon Titan's effect.
Correct. This is interesting now. So Ryan's just banishing. I think the main ones he wants to banish here are Roar and Dark, obviously, and the rest are just going to be cards that aren't useful after this point. Just shows how powerful Fairy Tale Snow is, though, in the Thunder Dragon deck. So he doesn't even have to use this effect to Book of Moon anything, because it doesn't even matter. He just gets to trigger a bunch of free effects, and
even banishing Thunder Dragons, he can recur them later back with Thunder Dragon Fusion.
Seems very free to me.
Very powerful deck.
So he's going to resolve it now. He's going to add off Dark, which may be the Fusion spell, I would say. Or even Thunder Dragons to be able to trigger Titan's effect to start getting through that back row. As you can see there, Chris probably not ecstatic with the way this game's open up, but luckily he has a game 2 and 3 to potentially make his way back into this if this one doesn't go his way.
Yeah.
But that 5-card back row has a lot of things in there, so...
Yeah.
Interesting how Ryan decides to navigate that in the next turn.
Yeah, he has to think about potential cards. Like, there can only be one. There might be Gozen matches.
It could be anything. Obviously, sorry.
Gozen match cutting off one of his attributes, forcing him to leave light and dark.
Having a quick translation check here.
On Thunder Dragon Hawk.
Oh, he's almost put the translation back in his hand. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to get another card. There we go. He draws for turn. I think that might have been a Mothman, potentially, or it's hard to see from here. But he's in the semi-phase. Chris has decided to flip the anti-spell fragrance and chain There Can Only Be One. So very interesting decision here.
Yeah.
Like Yahweh mentioned before, it might have been worth holding those cards to block the Titan from being able to activate, but obviously being aggressive like this is probably also fine. But unfortunately now he has nothing to chain to the Titan, so the Titan will now resolve off that Thunder Dragon effect.
They can
And
only be one is sent to the graveyard. The anti-spell fragrance will still be up to be able to block any potential spells, but unfortunately for him, Ryan does not have spells. He already used them all. No,
there's
he
a
didn't
lot.
have spells last turn either.
He has a lot of monster extenders instead. Once again, the danger strategy allows you to have that advantage of being able to get monsters on the board without having to rely on spell cards. So cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance and Imperial Order don't actually affect you spamming the board. So he's activating Hawk, and once again, he will now chain the Titan to destroy another card on the field.
Yeah.
This time he hits the
powerful.
Disciples. Titan's such a powerful card.
Yeah, it being able to pick off cards one by one and then leave them open to just attacking them with several monsters.
Not to mention it's 3,200 attack and defense, and also cannot be destroyed by card effects if it chooses to save itself by banishing 2 cards. Very strong deck.
Yeah.
So I think Ryan's trying to calculate if he can try to potentially push for the 8,000 damage required to win the game, or actually 7,400, although I think they put the life points off the wrong people then. I believe Ryan's supposed to be on 74 from the Summon Saw being attacked, and Christopher's still on 8,000.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
That's adding a Thunder Dragon Duo to his hand using the effect of Thunder Dragon Fusion. Thunder Dragon Duo being a very powerful card similar to Blackluster Soldier. It can banish cards from your graveyard to trigger their effects. It can recover your cards as well.
One of the best follow-ups in this deck is having that Fusion Engrave. So then you can just get that Duo and then be able to trigger all the effects you need to. And Duo actually has like 4 really good effects.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a Nightmare Phoenix now. So I think the way Ryan's approaching this, he's probably just going to try and pick off as many of the face downs as he can before he tries to see if he can go for the win. Oh, the card of Demise goes down.
It's a very... I think Ryan has identified that without any cards, he can leave up Anti-Spell Fragrance so that Chris can't potentially draw into like another card of Demise to be able to recover back into the game.
Correct. Unfortunately, it's not looking good for Christopher so far in Game 1. But we'll see. You never know. Ryan could make a mistake.
It's never worth giving up until your life points hit 0.
We may see a Nightmare Unicorn here to deal with the last unknown card. There it is, and he will probably chain Dark's effect.
Yeah, that was a Mothman he drew for turn.
It was a Mothman. He's going to be able to use it now.
Yeah.
I don't know if he will.
Ryan's adopted the strategy of just picking apart his opponent's board as opposed to aggressively attacking into potential like drowning mirror.
How much damage is I believe that's 8,200 exactly.
3,200.
So this may be, unfortunately, the end of the game for Game 1. And yep, so Chris is now conceded, and we'll move to siding. So what do we have in Ryan Levine's side deck to deal with this matchup?
Ryan Levine, so the Thunder Dragon strategy side, a lot of cards for decks which are heavy focused on traps, so they could potentially side Red Reboot, Evenly Matched, Twin Twisters, Dino Wrestler, Pancrotop, stuff like that, which all deal with back row really efficiently, while not cutting into your strategy.
So that'll definitely be for other decks like Altergeist and Skystriker.
Yes.
So these kind of cards actually overlap, so they can be with other decks as well, like this one.
Yeah.
And so in Christopher's side deck, he actually has the third There Can Only Be One, which I would imagine would come in against the Thunder Dragon matchup. He also side decks 3-Dimensional Barrier, which a very powerful card back in Pendulum formats in the past. But now, like, you can call fusions and potentially turn off their whole turn. But yeah, it'd be different this one because I believe Christopher might decide he wants to go first because he does not play any hand traps or anything like that. You could also potentially put the third Gozen match into his main deck if he so chooses. But yeah, that's about it. He has Imperial Order as well, but I believe that would be more for Sky Striker, depending.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
what do you think? Any other options here?
I think his main deck is already very streamlined to be able to take on the wide range of decks out there, and then the side decks just used to complement the niche matchups. I believe with Thunder Dragons being one of the main contenders, he would have had that in mind when building his main deck, which he does. And it'll be interesting to see how Game 2 goes with him going first and having his plays not being interrupted.
Yeah, it'll be also interesting to see how Ryan deals with the board without having an established board first.
Yeah.
Because obviously last game, yes, there can only be one resolved on him, but he also had like a Titan on the field still that he could use to pick apart the rest of the cards. I also noticed that Christopher's main decking Inspector Border. So if he manages to land that turn 1, things could be a bit tricky for Ryan's deck if he can't manage to get extra monsters on the field.
In situations like those, Thunder Dragon does have the Dragon Matrix, which has 2,000 defense, which can block off Inspector Border for a while, which normally is a problem, but with Dracos, they can additional tribute summon big monsters that can attack over the Thunder Dragon Matrix and continue with their strategy.
Very powerful card, especially in this deck. We saw it a while ago as well in another card called Amano Awado, which is very similar. But Inspector Border being able to stay on the field, it's a real presence for them to have to deal with it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be interesting. Like I said, I imagine Christopher will decide to go first, but you never know. He might have another game plan coming into this.
Yeah, because back in 2017, like Zoo format, Draco did want to go second to be able to break apart boards with their trap
Correct.
cards, their spell cards.
They even main deck cards like Ghost Reaper and Winter Jerry's actually back then as well,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah,
obviously counterintuitive normally, but when going second, like you don't have to resolve demise in your opponent's turn.
yeah, their deck was very compact, so they had a wide range of cards that they could also play, and then it's pretty difficult to play around every single strategy they could potentially play. They could be playing an extra deck, they could be playing no extra deck, they could play hand traps, play more traps.
I definitely saw dimensional barriers going into Christopher's deck, so hopefully we can see him open something like that, and maybe we can get to a game 3. Should be good. Ryan is doing his final shuffle ups here, and just Chris making sure he's happy with his side cards that he's put in.
Oh, he's just reviewing side. He just took out some anti-spell fragrances and Ignis Heat or two.
Interesting. What would he be looking at there?
Perhaps
so
he was.
Oh, he's gone red reboot.
Ooh.
Interesting. He may be possibly countering some sort of evenly matched. Do you believe?
I think Christopher took an approach where he was waiting for his opponent to side, try to count out how many cards his
Ooh.
opponents were siding, and figure out what those cards could be, and then accurately siding to beat those cards as well. That's a very strong side strategy.
Very, very tricky. He's
Like,
onto it.
If your opponent didn't side many cards, you could ascertain that they're not playing cards like evenly matched or something. Whereas if they sided a lot of cards, you know that their main deck was weak to your main deck.
So we got our opening hands here, and
He's got-
Christopher has opened a red reboot with Monarch's Erupt. I believe that's a True Draco Apocalypse, Maiden, and a Heritage. I also noticed that Ryan Levine also has a red reboot in his hand, so this could become quite interesting.
Yes, I saw a Tsuchinoko as well.
I think I saw a Jackalope, Glow Up Bulb, and possibly a Thunder Dragon Hawk. So Ryan will probably be feeling pretty comfortable with a red reboot in his hand, but little does he know that Christopher may have also set his one.
Ooh. Very interesting matchup. See, Ryan does not have any Thunder Dragons. Not
I
sure.
may have seen a Hawk, but not as many as last game, that's for sure.
The issue
So,
with
but another advantage with the dangers is you can probably draw into them, right? So we have an activation of Jackalope, and Chris has decided to let it go without activating his Majesty Maiden, so he probably doesn't want to have mods in his hand, depending.
the issue with Red Reboot is if you do hit it off a danger, now you don't have access to it. Whereas if you set it, you can't activate it.
Yeah, it's very interesting that Ryan did that, but
Oh, he did have a Thunder Dragon Hawk.
well, the Hawk has Maiden now sent to the graveyard, unfortunately, but Ryan will now get a draw, and he has drawn, what card was that? Was that a spell card? Was that the Thunder Dragon Fusion, I believe?
I believe so.
Did we see what Christopher drew off his Heritage effect?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
That's okay. Sure, we'll find out soon enough.
2,
So
3, 4, 5. Yeah.
interesting where Ryan decides to go from here. So
I-
he's normal summoning the Glow Bulb, which is a really good powerful card for link material because he can link it away, then use its effect to bring it back, and whilst also potentially hitting one of those cards you mentioned earlier that he wants in the graveyard.
Yeah. I'd assume the card he drew was a monster, right? Because if it was a trap, he would have said. If it was a spell, you probably would have used it.
Also, yeah.
Keeping a monster means he can use a True Draco trap card to summon it and use the trap or spell as disruption during Ryan's turn.
Yeah. And we now also see Christopher using his Majesty Maiden's effect in response to the Glow Bulb activation, I believe. So now Glow Bulb will be summoned and one card will be sent from Ryan's effect deck to the graveyard. So
That's a Tsuchinoko.
I think he wished that was in his hand, which I think he actually has one in his hand.
One thing interesting is Ryan has already used his normal summon this turn.
Correct.
So his plays are limited based on whatever he can special summon from his hand.
Yeah.
Link summoning using the Glow Bulb and the Link Rebo.
I think I may have also seen a Dragon Duo in Ryan's hand, which now because he hit the Tatsunoko, it is live. He also put the Link Rebo in grave anyway. So his Reaperdokus using its effect to make Jackalope a Earth, I assume. And, here comes the red
Ooh.
reboot. Oh, and the
Oh,
other red reboot!
That
Oh.
is huge. Now both players pay half their life points.
I don't believe Christopher pays half his life points because it was set.
Oh, true.
So
Ryan
Ryan
paid.
has now paid half his life points to now set a red reboot to his own side of the field and potentially another trap card if he's playing one.
I'd assume he'd be playing multiple copies of Red Reboot, and it'd probably be in his best interest to
Have another one.
get them out of his deck so he doesn't draw into them later.
The one downside now, though, is that Monarch's Erupt is now resolved. So if he has no way to deal with that right now, Red Reboot can't actually get it off the field anymore.
Yeah.
Very
And
interesting.
So the effect of Monarch's Erupt, as long as Chris controls a tribute summon monster and has no cards in his extra deck, it negates all monster effects except tribute summon monsters, I believe.
Yes, and if he, in his own end phase, does not control a tribute summon monster, Monarch's Erupt will destroy itself.
2400 attack.
23?
23. Mad
Oh,
Steam.
and the Dragon Duo has come down, which
Ooh.
is much bigger than the Majesty Maiden, unfortunately for Christopher. But lucky for him, the Monarch's Erupt will stay until his end phase. So if he manages to get another monster on the field, which he did act that Ignis Heat off the Maiden's effect.
But he has no way to tribute summon it in his opponent's turn.
No, he does
have
not. So he'll have to wait until his turn. So Ryan's still going here. He's now activated the Hawk's effect after banishing it to summon the duo to return one card to his deck. So he will draw another card.
What's he hoping to draw here?
I'm not 100% what he can go from here, because he's already used his normal summon. I assume he just wants another danger card, I would assume.
Yeah.
Or Goldsuck could also be very good.
Maybe a way to continue his plays next turn, as he can't use monster effects for the rest of this turn while Erupt's on. No, wait, when Erupt's on the field,
So even if Maiden leaves the field, Erupt will stay, and the effects will still be negated.
Yeah, correct.
I couldn't see what Ryan drew then, but he's still thinking, so it might have been something. I think it might have been a Dragon Dark.
Ryan is on 4,000 life points, so Chris might be able to find a way to be able to summon some True Draco monsters and just attack for
Very
game.
true, and Ripperdocus cannot go to defense mode as it's a link monster,
Yep.
and it's only got 800 attack.
Jackalope has
I think it's a snake, the Danger Tatsunoko. And he hits the Tatsunoko
Ooh.
and will now probably trigger the effect to summon it if he so chooses. And he does.
It's interesting to see what Ryan will go for while he is under the effects of the Monarch's Erupt.
Do you think he'll try to clear the heritage so Christopher has nothing to tribute next turn to keep the Erupt alive? Or
How would you do that under Monarch's Erupt?
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's trying to figure out. Because also the biggest threat on the board right now is the Dragon Duo.
Yep.
Because without Masterpiece, since it was banned not long ago now, it's not easy for Draco to be able to deal with something like a Dragon Duo without one of their traps.
They do have a Dragonic Diagram. It makes Dynamite 2800, which
That's true. And then it can crash and save itself.
Yeah.
So that's probably the draw he's looking for next turn. It has the Unicorn. Obviously, he won't be using the effect, so I don't think he would want to discard the card that is in his hand.
I think he was just
He
doing
was
that to
thinking then.
Yeah. I believe he was doing that to just summon a bigger monster.
Yeah, I think it's being, like I mentioned earlier, if he leaves the Ripperdocus on the field, there's a good chance he's vulnerable to losing a lot of life points, and he's already lost half of them by activating that red reboot.
There is 17 minutes left on the clock, so they have ample time to be able to play and not lose to end of match procedures.
Yes. So far, playing at a good rate, both players. So do you think Ryan will leave the duo on the field, or will he go for a Colossus play now? Or did he not activate a Thunder Dragon? Well, speaking of which, he's activating the Thunder Dragon Roar to add a Hawk to his hand.
He has that option. I think I think he does want to see what options he has available to contemplate whether it's better to leave it on the field or summon a fusion.
Yeah, and he can't activate that Hawk this turn, unfortunately, because he already used the shuffling hand effect.
He did leave Dragon Duo face up on the field. I believe that Monarch's Erupt should be sent to the...
Christopher's turn, if he doesn't control one.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
so he does have
still
another
stays on the
turn.
field. So now they can summon the Ignis by attributing the Disciples. So
Disciples.
now he's going to probably destroy one of those red reboots that was set from last turn. He thought about it for a second
Yeah.
there. I'm not sure if you remembered. The other card was a red reboot.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So now that since one True Draco card has gone to the graveyard, which was a spell, he's able to activate Heritage. But first he's going to activate Disciples to put 3 back and draw another card.
Ooh.
So getting some draws here. So hopefully he can try to dig for something like a Dragonic Diagram or even a card of Demise to follow up after he...
Yeah, there are many ways Christopher can get back into the game, and I don't think he's in that bad of a position.
It's funny that he's exactly on 4,000 as well after that battle phase.
Ooh,
was that another Heritage?
Yeah, that's not something he would like to see
this
right
Heritage
now.
would like to draw another card. What has he got now? Is that
He
a
drew
return? So it's
return.
not the worst draw ever. It's unfortunate he has so many Draco spells, and the Draco monster he has on the field also adds Draco spells.
Yeah.
So he's going to destroy the Nightmare Unicorn in the battle phase using his Ignis Heat.
That will deal 100 damage?
200 damage.
200 damage, yes.
And he's now quickly past his turn, and Ryan has drawn a Mathematician. So in his deck, I think Ryan has about 2 or 3 targets for Mathematician. I think it's Glow Bulb and Dotscaper.
Well, he does have Gem Knight Amber. I mean, you
never know.
if he needs more Thunder Dragons
it's
in
a
the
thunder.
Thunder monsters in the graveyard, he can send Amber. He can send a lot of his danger cards.
So he's now activated the Thunder Dragon Hawk in the hand, and Ignis will chain its effect to add another Draco spell. which I presume he'll go for another Disciples. So if some cards get sent to graveyard, he can resolve it next turn. There it is.
Oh, Chris's reboot allowed Ryan to set another reboot from his deck, which he
That
can use
return.
to stop the True Draco return.
Yep. Very unfortunate. I wonder if Chris has remembered that it's there. But unfortunately, with that duo being so strong and Chris not being able to deal with it last turn, it's going to be really
difficult
from here. So we see the Roar being tributed to summon a Colossus as he used a Thunder Dragon hand effect in this turn, and then he'll trigger the Thunder Dragon Roar to summon one from the deck. Thunder Dragon's doing Thunder Dragon things, very powerful.
Monarch's Erupt is putting in a lot of work this game, though. It's making Ryan have to jump through a few hurdles to be able to play it.
It's very true. That's what some of the cards that Chris would have liked to open, so...
Yes.
Curious how Ryan decides to try and play through this. Obviously, with that diagram, it means he will be able to get attacked.
Ryan might just have enough damage to push through.
And Chris is probably... depending if Chris remembers if that reboot's there or not, he may think he can use the return to protect himself, but... Is that something from the past coming back to hurt him in the future?
Very interesting.
Interesting play.
Yeah, he attacked his Mathematician into Ignisy to be able to get a draw from Mathematician's Graveyard effect.
Very heads-up play there by Ryan.
Definitely still trying to set up for next turn, or whatever potential turns he might have.
Well, I believe Tatsunoko plus Duo is 4,000 exactly anyway. So there it is. So Ryan has now won the match, conceding there, Chris. I think he knew that the reboot would negate the return anyway.
Yep.
So well done to the reigning champion. He retains the first round.
So in that match, we noticed that Chris did not open an ideal hand game one, especially going second. He wasn't able to pick apart Ryan's board.
Yes.
Which contributed to him not being able to win game one. And then game two, he did open fairly well. Not the ideal hand. No, he didn't draw.
He got a decent hand. It's probably what he was looking for. At least a floodgate, another monster on the field, stuff like that. Get a draw from Heritage. He would have liked to see more of his power cards, like Card of Demise and Dragonic Diagram, but that's not every game.
It was a little unfortunate that Ryan was able to have...
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that Ryan, for Chris's sake, that Ryan was able to play through it anyway.
Yeah.
But that just shows the true power of the Thunder Dragon deck.
Yeah,
and the way that he's playing.
It can pick apart your cards one by one, put a lot of monsters on the field, and then just eventually just all attack you, overwhelm you, and kill you.
And they're just all big. Every single monster is big.
Yeah.
Colossus is huge. You can't die.
Yeah, Titan is huge, 3,200, bigger than what we've seen most of the time.
Yeah, so a very powerful deck. So I might go head off in a minute to go talk to our winner.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Definitely.
But yeah, so looking forward to next round.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, True Draco, once again, always around. Hopefully Chris can go on from here and have a few more wins, and hopefully we may see him later on in the event.
Best of luck to both players. And yeah, you go talk to Ryan.
Yeah, I think I can't wait. I'll head over shortly when they're ready. They'll just let us know. But yeah. So from here, what matchups do you think this Thunder Dragon deck was built for? Because it's obviously not the standard Thunder Dragon deck that we would look at normally.
Yeah.
So what kind of matchups do you think he was trying to counteract? Do you think it was to have a better matchup against the combo decks or Scar Striker?
Well, I think the Thunder Dragon deck's inherently favored against Sky Striker because Colossus stops a lot of their effects. But then post-side, after the side decking, the matchup becomes more even. So with the danger cards being able to overwhelm the opponent more quickly, you can trade those cards and then eventually summon a Colossus, which would then prevent them from being able to play. So I think it was used to bring back that edge after siding.
Yeah.
And also against the other matchups as well.
Yeah, of course. Like, and a lot of side decks you see actually play cards like Book of Eclipse and Dimensional Barrier, as we saw from Chris, that can deal with the Thunder Dragon-based combos. But when you can start putting dangers on the field and making link plays, how do you put a link monster face down? You can't do it.
Yeah,
and then you've got Fairy Tale Snow and Grave, which obviously can interrupt the opponent as well. So it's very, very interesting list, very powerful.
Yeah, I noticed that he does play less Thunder Dragons than the standard Thunder Dragon deck. He only plays 2 Hawk and 2 Roars.
And 2 Matrix.
Yeah, which we could see in both his games where he didn't open a handful of Thunder Dragon monsters. I also noticed he doesn't play Battery Man Solar, which is pretty standard in most decks.
I would say that the Mathematician that we saw on the stream just then, and also the Grinder Golem as well, is probably why he decided against the Battery Man Solars, because otherwise it might conflict with itself. But yep, all good. So very soon, and we'll be back with the next round, and hopefully we see some more matchups like this.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but
All right,
so we're going to interview Ryan Levine, our winner and reigning champion.
Yep.
And then we should be back after that with maybe another one.
Yeah. Sorry? Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I was
Okay.
told I was coming. Yeah, I was told I was coming out to do the interview, not him coming in here.
Which one would you like to? Who would you like to interview then?
All right, so he's coming in here.
Yeah, because the other
All right, cool.
Do you want to do it? Or?
You can do this one. Yeah, you come over here, man.
Just be like a gum.
Just pass it here.
Bean, how are you?
I'm good. Great to be here.
How's your first match?
Uh, that was a thing. I just kind of switched decks last minute. So game one, I was fumbling through it a little bit. Like I ended my board was really good, but when he flipped, there can only be one. I thought I wouldn't know what to do about that. Like I realized I mismanaged my resources, and I didn't have any on the dark. I did not have any more Thunder Dragons left in my deck to search at all.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I hope this doesn't matter. And then it ended up not mattering. But I was so I'll have to practice this a little more in between rounds.
Were you able to identify what deck he was playing when you sat down and he presented no extra deck, or was it something that was an oversight?
I mean, I figured what he was playing, but I just didn't. That didn't affect what I was going to do turn one. Like Colossus and Titan is what I was going to do anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't a strategy you were
No,
practicing.
there wasn't like there's not a specific different board I'm making against True Draco. If he'd like won the roll and made me go first, then maybe I would have done something. But I won the roll, so I just chose first and just did what I would do normally.
And then during siding, I'd noticed that he waited for you to side before he sided. Do you think that he was using some advanced side deck strategy?
No,
where he,
I just think he changed his mind because the judges after we sided, they just asked us to like count our side decks again, and then I don't know if he found a mistake or something, but he just changed one card, I guess. I don't know. I didn't read too much into it. Usually I do, but in this instance I did not.
And then one interesting highlight of that was him using red reboot on your red reboot.
Yeah. Did you get my face? Was there a face cam up when that happened? I did not know what to do. I was a deer caught in the headlights. I thought I was just.
And that ended up not too bad for you. You still had to drag.
Yeah, because I sided in 2 reboots. I got the second one. So when it came back to my turn and I still had a reboot set, I was like, okay, I think unless his sets were another red reboot, I was pretty sure I was getting there that turn.
Okay, yeah, good. So you won last year's YCS Melbourne.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How was that?
About Melbourne? I think I was way more prepared for Melbourne than I am now. I had been playing that deck a lot, playing a lot, and I really liked it. I do like Thunder Dragon, but I've not played in nearly as many events with Thunder Dragon as I did with Spiral last year. So, and I just changed my deck probably 25 cards last night. So I'm doing my best. Hopefully, as the rounds go on, I'll have a more concrete idea of what's going on.
Yep.
But halfway through my turn one, I figured out what it was supposed to end on, so that was pretty good.
Okay, that's good. So you believe that Thunder Dragon is the strategy that will take you the furthest in this tournament?
Yeah, I think Thunder Dragon, generally, as time goes on, you learn more things with decks, or just people in general, discover more things with decks. I think Sky Striker has been out for a long time, and it's there's a pretty standard list. Altergeist has been out for a while. There's a pretty standard list. I think Thunder Dragon is one of the decks where there's a lot more room to explore.
Yeah.
You can't really play the danger cards in Sky Striker. You can't really play them in Altergeist. Those are not decks that really have room to expand. They're very streamlined, which sometimes is good because they're just very consistent. but sometimes you need to do more, right? Like those decks are pretty limited in what they can do in one turn, and there's not much room to improve there. So we're trying something. I'm not the only one. This is not. I did not can create this deck list with Mathematician.
Yep.
Hopefully, the other people that are also playing this same list do well and get featured, and we'll see how that goes. But
Yeah, going back to that game, you did attack with Mathematician into monster hoping for a
yeah,
draw.
yeah. So I knew it was lethal on board, but I figured in case his sets were red reboot and a trap card that would stop me from winning,
Yeah.
cycling Mathematician for a draw was better than having a negated Mathematician.
Yeah.
So just small things.
Sounds like a good strategy. So what do you think the top cut representation will be? Do you think?
I think it'll also just be based on popularity. I think if a lot of people are playing Striker and a lot of people are playing Altergeist, then those decks will still do very well. But I think we'll see. I think every deck is pretty close in power right now for like the closest they've been in a long time.
Yeah.
So I think top cut will be pretty similar to the representation of the overall event. I think every deck will have pretty similar turnover percentages between day 1 and day 2.
Oh yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, we'll hope you do well in the rest of the tournament.
Thank
and,
you.
9 rounds to go. You got.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.